In the examples we looked at up to this point, the qubit or block created through the block provider could always be accessed from the widget subtree. But is it always possible to access like this? Now let's take a look at the cases to be aware of for block access and find out how to solve it. I have created an app called Block Context. As a package, Equatable and Flutter Bloc were installed, and the include line of the analysis options.yaml file was commented out so that the default linting rule was not applied during the development process. The Block Context app has placed two widgets in the column widget, a text widget that displays a current counter value and an elevated button that increases the counter value. It is a very simple app. The counter qubit is identical to the counter qubit you have seen many times before. In the current main.dot file, as before, the material app is wrapped in a block provider of type counter qubit. Let's test it. It works as expected. Now, instead of wrapping material app with the block provider, you wrap column with the block provider. That is, we want access counter qubit directly from the child of the block provider widget. Let's do a hard restart and test. An error has occurred. Let's take a closer look at the error. The error says that when calling blockprovider.org, a context that does not contain counter qubit was used. Below, it says that no ancestor containing counter qubit can be found starting from the context passed to blockprovider.org counter qubit. And it is said that this can happen if the context used is the context above the block provider. This case is detailed in the official documentation. It is a question and answer that is exactly right for the current situation. In question, what to do when the desired block is not found when using blockprovider.org context. In this case, the document states, you cannot access a block from the same context in which it was provided, so you must ensure blockprovider.org is called within a child build context. What does this mean? blockprovider.org type T context or context.read type T extension method starts from the given context and goes up the widget tree to find an object instance of type T. Since the context keeps getting mentioned, it can be a bit confusing. So I will replace the context of the create function with underscore. This means we don't care about the context. Shall we run it again? It's still the same. In other words, the context of the extension method is the context passed to the build function. And from that context, it goes up the widget tree. So of course, there is no block provider. That's why error occurred. There are two solutions here. The first is to separate the child widgets into separate widgets. Select extract widget from the menu and give child widget as a name. Now let's do a hard restart and run it again. It looks like the expected behavior. The second way is to use the builder widget. Let's undo what we refactor into child widget. Wrap the column widget with the build widget and modify it in the form of returning the column widget from the builder callback of the builder widget. Let's run it after hard restart. It works normally. The builder widget creates an additional build context, so you can find the block provider of counter qubit type in the column widget. Next, we'll look at the relationship between navigation and block access. As we discuss block access, we'll naturally see examples of the use of a value named constructors. There are three main methods for navigation. You can use anonymous route, named route, and generate route. In each of these, the way to access the block is slightly different.